Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the first official ELG podcast. We are mad excited. I think I do have to unmute myself in Discord so everybody else can hear me. But yo, what's going on, everybody? I am your host today, Ozarts. I'm the director of operations for ELGNation. I am joined with my co-host today, Mr. Melly. Melly, I'll let you introduce yourself. Unmute yourself, sir. Or Shimko. Sorry, I keep saying Melly. Why do I keep saying Melly? Shimko, unmute yourself.
Hey, what's up, dude? How's it going? Happy to be here.
Let's go. Who are you and what do you do for ELG?
All right. Well, I am Shimeko, obviously. Hello. I'm the community manager for ELG. I'm also an avid eSports enthusiast, so any questions, comments, send them my way. Happy to chat, happy to talk. Let's get it going.
Let's go. Today we have a special guest. We have our oh my goodness, I keep forgetting that I have two microphones, but today we have our special guest, Melly. He is our eSports, not our eSports, but our League of Legends captain. Melly, you may unmute yourself and introduce yourself to the podcast. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
What's going on?
Pretty well.
How's the weather where you are? Is it snowing?
No, I'm back in Florida.
Oh, that's right. You're in Florida. That's right.
Yeah. It's
Florida
hot
gang.
as fuck. Yeah, it's hot as hell in here.
Dude,
but I like it. I like the vibe a little bit more. More people.
Yeah, I get it.
Nice out here.
Before we start this podcast, for you guys watching live on our Twitch channel on ELGNation GG, I want to give a special shout out to our sponsors, especially Glitch Energy, who will help me through this podcast. I'm going to take a little sip really quick. Hold on just a second. As water is spilling all over my nice new hoodie my girlfriend just got me. For those of you who are wondering, this is a live broadcast of our podcast. This podcast will be edited down and special graphics will be put in place when we throw it on YouTube. So if mistakes happen, you've seen it live first. The reason, you see, this is the bad stuff, guys, because I get to edit all this stuff out. Anyway. So
we'll just go back and edit all that out.
Yeah, we're gonna edit all the bad stuff because Ozarts apparently just can't talk, and that's just how it is. But today we're gonna be talking with Melly. Like I said before, he is our League of Legends captain. We're gonna dive in to hopefully figure out some things. What's going on with the team? Big stuff are happening with the team in 2021. So Melly, you're the mid laner, correct?
Yeah, I play mid lane as well as other roles, but yeah, I made mid lane for the team. I am the captain. At the moment, we are doing some roster changes. Stuff that's going to be happening soon. Just wait for the announcements to be going on. But coming in 2021, we will be doing a couple seasons, getting stuff going for ELGNation, and getting that hype around us and hype around the org.
Mm-hmm.
That's our number one goal. Obviously, to compete at the highest level is the other goal. Hopefully getting invited to other stuff as we're winning and taking over stuff would be what we want to do overall.
Nice. Who do you main? Like, who's your main? Who's like your favorite?
Like I could play anybody, but I would honestly say Akali, probably the most game time played mid lane for sure.
Okay, you see, when I play League of Legends, I'm a scrub, so I either support as who's that girl with the magic stick that I can't remember. Lux, yeah, I support as Lux, or either I bot lane Ashe because I'm from 2014. So
oh yeah, I feel that. Yeah, it's been a long time since you played.
Yeah, dude, Ashe was like one of the best when I was in
Yeah.
high school. So, but nobody really plays her anymore, and I'm sad. Really sad about it.
Man, talking about high school throws me back because like that was probably the only time I actually played League of Legends, and
Yeah.
I mained the like Kid Wizard or whatever the
Vagar.
yeah, him. Yeah, he was
Vagar.
the first character I like unlocked permanently because I had a blast. Granted, I probably wasn't very good because I was playing
Yeah.
on like a $150 laptop, but you know, it was
Yeah, I mean,
that's the extent of my League of Legends experience aside from, you know, like watching Worlds and stuff.
uh-huh.
So,
Oh yeah.
so
Worlds.
you guys are going. In case everybody didn't know, the League of Legends team actually is getting a house in Florida. Is that all set up yet, or is everything
Yeah,
still getting?
everybody's kind of moving down slowly, getting everything situated. I just ended up helping our support move down from Virginia. We went up for a week or so and we got everything packed and brought everything back down. Took us around a week. A lot of driving, but we got it done there. And yeah, everybody should be down here by the end of January. Sure.
Okay, cool. Because that's when
Yeah,
hint,
everything.
I'll be making my way downtown with my production stuff, and we'll be shooting something. A little
Sure.
Yeah.
dropping hints on the podcast of what we're working on. We're not gonna go. We might go into some details about it later, but so your teammates, who do they consist of?
Like the whole team together.
Correct. Yeah, everybody. Their
Okay,
names, what they do.
All right. Yeah, Holy Empress, which their support. Definitely going into more in depth, but everybody's very good. I just want to throw that out there now. Everybody is top either challenger or high grandmasters, meaning top 500 to top 300 North America right now. That consists of our team at the moment. We have a Wolfie coming out of ADC, which is the bot lane. We have Holy Empress as a support. We have You Jungle My Jungle as our jungler and Goo as our top laner, and then obviously me mid lane. That's our whole team right now. We do have Span as a coach, and we have two other players coming off the bench. One's name is Shams, one name's L, and that's our team at the moment. We're looking for analysts to keep pushing in to next season, like I said, and just keep pushing forward and growing as individual players, and just keep everything going.
Yeah, you guys are top. I remember Harley said that you guys are top 30 NA. Is that correct?
I mean that's like a guesstimation, but yeah, there isn't many teams that have high challengers in their team, and when you do put everybody together, it would be like top 40 or 30-ish, the
Okay.
guesstimation.
I mean,
know what I mean?
I mean, let's be honest, that's Pog. You guys
Yeah,
are
it's high up.
you guys we did a watch party for you guys in the ELG Discord when you guys won the
The last tournament we
the
played in
last
the Clash
tournament.
one?
Let me tell you,
Yeah.
Melly, you are an absolute monster. I clipped
Ollie jumping. Yeah.
clipped a certain I think it was like somebody died and you were in mid and you were trying to get away. It was like a 1v5 and you ended up staying alive and getting a double kill and getting away. That was probably the most badass shit I've ever seen while watching League of Legends. And I somewhat watch League. I'm a pretty big Optic fan. When they had a League team, I watched them pretty regularly. So what so obviously with COVID and stuff, there aren't lands. Hopefully lands will be returning soon. What's the team mindset heading into 2021? Like are there tournaments or
Take
there's like a league?
everything with a dub, 100% practice every day, and going into every tournament to win it, and from there kind of, I guess, scrimming and playing against better and better players and never really stopping. That's obviously the goal, and to always get better. As well as communication is a big issue we've been having in some of our tournaments, is where we assume stuff, and we're not communicating as well, which we'll be fixing, and we're going over everything and getting stuff down packed for next season.
Very nice. So I mean, I guess we can talk about it. I dropped the hint earlier. I myself will be coming. We're planning on me coming down. Our big point, and we talked about this in our recent community meeting was about our esports teams and how our focus was going to be on you guys for the majority of our future, because you guys are obviously ridiculously talented. I mean, you guys win tournaments left and right, but I will be coming for the viewers out there that are watching live on Twitch, who aren't a part of our community. I will be going down to Florida, hopefully late June, early February, when everybody's settled in. And I'm sure somebody else said that they wanted to join along, but we will be shooting that was Shimmy actually, who said he wanted to join along. And I think there was somebody else said that they were in Florida. They wanted to come by and watch the production. But we will be shooting a quote unquote, I wouldn't call it really a documentary, but we kind of did I think
a road to
a get to know video. We did one for management on our YouTube channel. I think it was like 2 months ago. It kind of that, but more professionally done in a live, quote unquote, like a live studio setting where I can actually bring, my studio equipment with me and shoot more of a professional
really
looking.
Like that video you made about everybody in the higher management, how everything. I really enjoyed it.
You want to know how hard it was? It was like pulling teeth to get people to make that video. It was terrible. I planned it for I think I had it planned for 2 weeks, and I was literally pulling teeth, pulling strings, pulling teeth, trying to make guys, make this video, guys, please, we got to dish out this content. People need to know who we are, stuff like that. And obviously we've had management since, and we're trying to we'll probably make another one soon. But
I was a big fan of that. I was a big fan of the Christmas video that you made recently. That was a good video too. I really enjoyed it.
The Christmas video was great.
Well, thank you. I worked really hard on that. Apparently, I mean, we're not going to get into it. Other people don't think so, but so yeah, well, I'll be coming down late January, early February, and
words are hard.
Words are extremely hard, and that's why.
About it.
But we'll be, producing this video, and I'm really, really excited about it because you guys deserve the notoriety and everything. I'm really excited. I'm gonna I'm not flying because
fuck that.
COVID and stuff. It's such a gray area with COVID, and it's so hard. And that'll be about one of our topics here in a little bit about building an org through COVID. But it's so hard.
Yeah, flying during COVID has been really interesting. It's like it's changed, but everything's still the same. You still hate the airport the exact same way that you used to, but now it just seems like everything's even more tedious than it was before.
Yeah, everybody wearing masks.
I get it, right? Because we want to keep everybody safe, but we've still got stuff we have to do. I had to fly twice for work and, to attend some meetings and stuff. And then I had one other trip that, was kind of like a pleasure trip, but there was still, work involved. I just got the chance to actually spend some time for myself on that one. But overall, the travel process is so different, yet exactly the same if you've ever been a traveling player before. So you kind of get that same feel, but everything just seems more sluggish, stagnant, maybe is the best word for it.
I get what you mean.
And it's crazy how much things can change and stay the same.
Yeah, for me, we decided to actually just, like I said, we went to Virginia, move everything down. Our support, and everybody else kind of flew down, kind of did their own thing. But it was a tedious process. We decided to not go to the airport because of the hassle of COVID and stuff like that. We ended up renting a car, SUV, just to go up and bring everything down. It became a tedious process. It was like 19 hours up or 18 hours up. It was a terrible trip. But I mean, it was a fun experience, but I wouldn't do it again. I definitely fly next time.
What you see all these big organizations and their content houses and stuff, and they have this section of the house where everybody all of the setups are. Is that how it is with you guys? You're all in one room,
or you're all everybody has their own internet and everybody's gonna have their own room once everything gets settled in, kind of stuff. one person decided to not be in it at all because of COVID, and he's not really liking living with people, so he's gonna do his own thing. But that's like the only person we're kind of waiting
I mean,
on
that's
to finish now.
understandable. So,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
I'm not gonna knock him for it, but I mean, let him do his own thing, and everybody else will be here. And if he ever needs anything, we're like less than a little bit away.
So kind of banking off the whole, like we're gonna come down and we're gonna take a look and record the video and do some production things. Can you kind of like walk us through, like, I guess, a day in the life of a player, right? Like, you don't have to go into absurd detail, but like, how does your day look compared to what like normal people's days would look like?
hello? Did we lose him?
Oh, hello.
Oh, there he is. Okay, I'll edit that out.
Yeah, that was a little weird. Sorry, I maybe internet.
That's okay. That's all right.
And yeah, basically, day starts off. You wake up, you get some food in your system, get yourself going a little bit. Um, Maybe watch some TV and then get into some solo queue games, getting practice ready, and everything starts to like that. If you have scrims that day, that we most likely do, we scrim around 4 or 5 times a week, give or take. And we're gonna have a couple scrims and then kind of watch over gameplay of either tournaments that we played recently or scrims that we played recently to kind of understand what our mistakes that we're making going into other games and other stuff, and what little fine tuning we can find and do. Because when you get to a certain point in the game, you understand what you have to do. There's always something you can work on. There's always something you could Im- implement from someone else's game or from someone that is like a third eye, I guess, watching you play, and you'd be like, how about you do this instead? Push this lane in this certain time, or do this in this certain time. It kind of gets that complex feeling behind it, but it's very fun to do, honestly.
Nice. How? I don't know if you mentioned, because I'm going through. I still have a job as a director of this org. I have to go through stuff. How many hours a day do you play?
I only play around 5 or 6. Like, I actually play myself, and then maybe 3 or 4 are actually watching over scrims, watching games that other people are playing, whether it's pros, whether it's my teammates or whatever, and seeing what's wrong, and then kind of picking apart the videos and stuff like that. And then from there, I have the rest of the day to do stuff I need to take care of, whether it's groceries,
Mm-hmm.
spending time with friends, whatever. I mean, you always have to have a social life because if not, you get depressed, stuff like that. So you always want to keep active in some way with friends, have a good time. But also, you gotta be very, very diligent with your work. You can't slack off. You gotta, that's what it takes to go pro. You know what I mean? You gotta put that time in.
Definitely.
100%.
Do you have, so that's that right there? If I calculate math correctly, that's like 7 to 8 hours a day that you're spending League of Legends. Like
It's around like 8 to 10 almost. Yeah, give or take. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. When I played Halo back in high school and going through my early 20s, it was, I wouldn't call it tedious, but it was around 8 after, I had a job, but it was work. It was either school Halo or work Halo. It was like 8 hours to almost 10 hours of my time put into Halo, going to tournaments and stuff like that. So I understand completely what that life is like, and I have considered going back to it, but I don't really want to. I kind of want to pursue other things now that I'm almost in my mid-20s.
Let me ask you a question. So coming to Halo, because I do come from more League of Legends, even though I do have some FPS background in Counter Strike and Call of Duty. So how is it like for me when I was playing Counter Strike competitively? I got very, very tedious in playing the same game over and over, kind of doing the same thing over and over, and finding how to get better really relies on the individual mechanics more on, and obviously the team as well, but more on the individual mechanics of the actual player, how well you aim, how well you do stuff like that. How would you like take your day step by step? Do you do a lot of aim training? What would you do?
Okay, so especially when I was younger and I was just getting into comp Halo, Halo. So when I was younger, I would go and do a lot of camera shortage. Hold on. I hate that. I got to figure out how to fix that. I'll edit that out. But I was a 1v1 player growing up,
Mhm.
especially in my early teens and early 20s before I transitioned to 4v4. So 1v1ing is all about angles in Halo. Um, a lot of people would call it spawn killing, but it's more of holding your angles. There is something called octagon in Halo. It's where you literally sit. So I'm here, enemy team there, and you literally just spawn in front of each other continuously for as long as you want, and you just shoot at each other for hours. I didn't do that. I'm not really an octagon player. Back in Halo Reach, when I was a part of a clan, they had this special map made that we can work on our aim and work on your angles. They had like obstacles and stuff all over the map and stuff. It was really cool. Now that I think about it, that's probably where I got most of my gun skill from, especially for
That
Halo
was actually gonna be my
Reach.
next question. Yeah. Did you think it helped you going into competitive play? Because it
Yeah,
would have made you a better player.
so what? Definitely a lot of 1v1 players grew into really good 4v4 players because to be a 1v1er, you're playing one person, so you're used to, like, in Halo you have strafing. Depending on the Halo, the strafing's more. Like Halo Reach strafing is god tier. It's super fast. You can literally warp back and forth. But when Halo 4 came out, strafing wasn't really a big thing. It was all about gunplay. And then when Halo 5 came out, it was a mixture of everything. Um, I skipped H2A. H2A was another game where strafing wasn't really involved in movement movement.
Command.
You know what I'm trying to say. In movement,
Yeah.
and then Halo 5 went back to Reach. So it's like it's always a different thing
Yeah.
for each
Different play
game.
style.
But yeah, definitely. You can go back to a lot of 1v1ers who turned into really good 4v4 players. Just to throw out big names like Ninja or Commonly or recent players like Falcated, and just to name off a few. But we won
You said you played pretty young then, yeah? How old when you started playing, like
uh
competitively?
14.
Okay.
I went to my first tournament when I was I want to say a sophomore in high school. It was MLG Columbus 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have been a sophomore. That's either a freshman or a sophomore. My buddy Logan got me into competitive Halo. So, but I
I think.
didn't start playing 4v4 seriously up until around 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Funnily enough, I was at MLG Columbus 2012.
Were you?
I was just a spectator because Halo wasn't my thing. I was playing COD, and COD hadn't really quite hit that point yet. Halo was kind of what launched it.
We can have an entire podcast
Right?
about that. But yeah.
Yeah.
It's like hearing you talk about Halo, right? It's like I hear a lot of the same stuff from like when I competed in COD, but then I hear a lot of like things that were different too. It's like you didn't in competitive COD, right? You would do the same things. Like you would scrim, you would practice, but like you never really found players that were the players
Dedicated.
that were great in public matches, right, did not transition well to competitive because public matches played so much different, right?
Yeah.
Like in Halo public matches, if you got really good, like Ozarts was talking about, where your 1v1s were on point, you were hitting your shots, you could transition that into competitive. But with Call of Duty, when you had a new title that came out every year and pubs just played at a completely different pace,
Mm.
because it didn't, you didn't have to maintain a skill shot as long as you do in Halo to confirm a kill in Call of Duty, along with the fact that like the competitive scene was so niche. Everybody that played Halo was like, "Oh God, I want to grind ranked. I want to get level 50." Showing my age here a little bit.
Jesus.
Wanted to grind it out and be like, "Yeah, I want to be able to do what those guys can do." Whereas Call of Duty, the public matches community and the pro mod community at the time were so far divided
Oh
in terms
yeah.
of like what they did and what their goals were, that like finding a diamond in the rough type player never really happened. It was just, you had the people that grinded for competitive that played competitive. And until competitive Call of Duty blew up and say like I'd say Black Ops 2 is when it really kind of
Yeah,
like
like
made
2012, yeah.
its mark. Yeah, I think Black Ops 2 was 2012
Yes.
Because
because
AW was
I
2014,
was
so it was like 2 before.
because that was the last year that I competed, and I use air quotes professionally, was in Black Ops 2 because then I graduated and I went to college and I started playing Counter Strike. Um, but that year really solidified Call of Duty as, hey, we've got an audience that likes to receive the big competitive tournaments too, and it really like started the fire in a lot of the younger players, because you would see younger players at events competing, but you wouldn't see them grinding so much. Whereas
Yeah.
now, a lot of the star players that are in the scene today, they started playing, like GB and then CMG and UMG tournaments, and the S&D grinders turn out to be some of the best respawn players when they have the right people guiding them into those roles, because they get the mindset early on, and they're playing 8, 10, 12 hours a day sometimes because they're still in the position in life where they can do that. So the
Yeah,
the
why
scene
not?
has really just ultimately evolved so much from like how I remember playing to where it is now. And I see these people come out almost out of nowhere. It's like you have no idea, like, oh, these, I guess they played a tournament online once, but they'll show up to a LAN and they'll just be frying everybody. And you're like, that's the guy. If you could get a solid team around him, you can actually do something with it. And I think the biggest thing holding Call of Duty back right now is just the fact that nobody wants to expand. It's almost like an old boys club. And so you have to kind of open your mind to the fact that, hey, we are an expanding community. We need to open our arms for it. That way we don't necessarily alienate parts of our audiences and, dedicated players.
The thing about that is, like, if you think about it, right, with the new signing of their franchising and stuff like that, a lot of people are fighting for spots. Every old pro, that was something previously to this is going to be fighting for a spot on teams, and they're trying to make their own teams at this point. There's like, for example, remember Sensor?
Oh
He's been
yeah.
trying to get on a roster for how long now? Since franchising started, he was talking about how he got onto a team, but he was a substitute, and no one was picking him up for scrims because he was a substitute. No one wants to play against the second best when they can
Oops.
go play against the best, right? So, they were all kind of divided, and people were fighting about it. And then how would you do that? Because now there's limited roster spots. Before, you can just go make a team and go to a land event, right? And now you
Crap.
go do
Right.
you.
I think ultimately the biggest thing, right? Franchising obviously is great in some ways and absolutely horrendous in others, because it's almost like a gatekeeping mechanism, right? I think the tournament structure needs a rework, but with COVID, we don't really have the opportunity to even try anything different. So that leads to sort of a conflict of, okay, well, we've got the franchise player, and like you said, nobody wants to practice against the second best, but I feel like that can also leave a niche window where the second best teams can actually be better than the quote best
Top.
teams,
Yeah.
because you're not seeing what they're doing. You don't get footage, you can't review it, but the top teams, everything is
What I
visible,
meant by
right?
like second team is not like the second best out of like 16 teams. I'm talking about like the second best roster that they have. Why? So the problem with CS:GO, in my personal opinion, same thing with Call of Duty, was that the people that were on benched, or it was really hard for them to move around because now you're limited to a contract. You can't leave to go play with another team because you're on a contract. So now you're kind of in a situation where, like, you will almost get no play time, right? And then how do you move around? You could play best of eight, like money eights and money tens and all that stuff, and try to get some practice against really good players. But what is the angle you're gonna have to provide? Going into when you actually get that call up, and if you weren't like playing 24/7, 24/7, trying to get real practice, it's kind of hard to show up on the day of the land when they finally need you, right? So that's kind of what I meant by that. Not that, like, obviously the best team can always fall, right? That's in every esport. The best team can always fall, but if the best team is five players is always getting practice, and then the other people have to like now start switching out players to get playtime around. It's pretty hard, to do that. And as well as how much they're paying these players is a ridiculous amount of
Right.
money. So
Yeah.
why keep somebody? You're gonna have to pay them like what, $200 to $100,000 a year to keep him on a bench spot. Why do that in general? What, just let him go and then let him go do his own thing. So it's interesting to think about when you put it like that.
Yeah, I think that's just a fundamental flaw in the system, honestly. How I would fix it is kind of like a subjective statement, right? Because we haven't seen enough with franchising and COD to really make that call.
Yeah,
I know they did the franchising in, say, Overwatch, and from what I heard, it did okay, but I was never really
a big fan
as
of it.
in tune with Overwatch, right? Because again, it's like you said, it limits opportunities. You can't just show up to a LAN anymore and be like, hey, we're good, we got this, let's show what we've got. And I think that's just the fundamental flaw in franchising in general,
Mhm.
is that you're putting too much focus on the establishment and not enough on the community.
Yeah,
And that's where I think the flaw comes in. But when you're dumping a ton of money into franchising, of course that's where you want the spotlight to be. I definitely feel like there should be an avenue, and the approach with the path to pro that they started, it was a step, right? Whether or not it worked out, we didn't really get to see because COVID axed all the lands. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but that's where I'll leave it because we don't have enough data to actually go on. And
yeah.
it sucks, but it is what it is, and that's where
The
we
way
are
I
right now.
personally would fix it would be, I like the franchising rule, but I think should be like in every other esport, there are subdivisions, right? So it gives people chances to get called up, just like the major league, just like NFL. You have minor leagues to compete in, because again, like I was saying, like Sensor's situation was like he was getting blackballed out of the scene where no one was picking him up because he's not only because everybody didn't think he's as good or whatever, but as well as um sorry, I lost train of thought for a second.
You're good.
Not as well, like not as good, but also like he just wasn't at the level they wanted, right? So basically what they did was just basically never picked them in money eights, kind of like threw him, or money tens or whatever it was, and kind of threw him to the side and only picking starting players or people they thought they were good or friends with that they wanted to scrim with. So then in that situation, does he have to step down and lower himself, to get playtime? But then what if you don't get the competition you need? So it's kind of interesting to think about. But personally, I would put in subdivisions, maybe, you know, like they do in League of Legends. League of Legends is basically franchising at like its core, because there is no, you know, way to get in unless you get invited in, kind of thing. And it's pretty expensive to get invited in anyway, right? So, but I would put in a subdivision so people that are up and comers get a chance to play, and do like a development league, like CS:GO has that, right? They have a development league where you're able to, put pros against the minor league best and see what happens. And that kind of gives people a space and understanding. Okay, I'm this good. I'm this bad. I'm where you are, and you're gauging and you're grading yourself. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the reason why they didn't is because I don't know how much everyone saw, but like when franchising was first coming to COD, there was a whole big stink about it. And a
Yeah.
lot of the people that were buying into it
Mhm.
were super cautious and super hesitant. That's why 100 Thieves didn't get in immediately, was
Mhm.
because when they were offered the spot, hey, you can buy the spot,
And
when
they
they
said
were
no. Yeah.
read into it, right, the system was pretty terrible. Like you were talking about, they don't have an up and comers league. They don't have any way. It just seems like one of those things where they're like, hey, we want people to throw a bunch of money at this so we can make a bunch of money off of it.
Mm.
And it's unfortunate because I feel like it's a real missed opportunity.
For what? 100 Thieves?
Well, just for
Oh,
COD in general,
okay.
right?
Because
Like
I'm aware
because
of
because
100 Thieves
Hundred
now
Thieves
has the teams.
does,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah.
the big thing with Hundred Thieves at the time was, and they came out and said it was just that the franchising system just didn't seem like it was set up for success, and so they were holding off on it.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard great things about the zombies in the new Call of Duty. And the multiplayer, apparently, people saying is just a kind of like a rework, a little bit of the old one, and it's kind of I personally don't know, so
It's
don't ask me.
okay. I mean, I'm
It
not a
felt like
zombie.
old crack to me.
I'm not a zombies player. I do enjoy playing Cold War. It's a fun pastime for me to play, especially when I don't know what else to stream and make to do basically while I'm not doing other things. But I enjoy it. It's fun. I mean, there are some times where the game just feels a bit clunky, if you know what I mean. But
Yeah.
it's a good game. I mean, at least Call of Duty has games coming out, unlike Halo. But it is what it is. So we are going to take an intermission to reset back up our Zoom meeting because apparently Zoom has time. All right,
Yeah.
so sorry about that, Twitch chat. We'll get right back into things. We have about 20 minutes left on the podcast.
We
But
can't go longer.
I mean,
Got a
we
bunch of
can't. We
got a
can't
bunch of
afford
things
to.
to talk about.
I mean, I got stuff to do. I have videos to edit, and no, I'm just kidding. I'm so mad. I'm gonna leave. Oh no, Empress, don't leave. Don't leave. All right, let's focus up and resume the podcast in 1, 2.
We're talking about Call of Duty.
Yeah,
What do you think about the What do you think about the CS:GO scene after Valorant came out? Jimmy, go.
Professionally or personally, I think is
Both.
the
You can
best
you
way
can
to
put you
say.
can put you can put both.
Okay, so professionally, I think Valorant obviously is the Riot, competitor to Counter-Strike. They did it on purpose, and honestly, they did an excellent job at marketing it. I feel, in my
Really?
opinion,
Okay.
yes, like in the sense of grabbing people's attention, right? Because that's the big thing is if you want to take on the biggest
Yeah.
FPS, right, around, you have to do something flashy. Whether or not it's good, is yet to be found. But when at face value, it was flashy, it was new, but it was familiar in the sense of
Yeah.
how they, portrayed it. So it was like, oh, I used to play Counter Strike, but this looks more modern, more advanced, almost in a way. And this is just from first impressions.
Yeah.
That I think it was marketed really well in that sense. Now the directions it has taken since then, are mostly subjective. Some people love it, some people hate it.
Mm.
Personally, I feel like it became the battlegrounds for the Counter Strike players that couldn't quite make the cut in Tier One Counter
Even
Strike.
though there's a lot of pro Counter Strike players that actually drop contract on spot and swap.
Right. And, that could be because they liked the game more, or they thought the opportunities were better, or they thought that Riot would handle it better than Valve, because
Yeah.
we all
Do they
know that
listen to the
Valve
players,
has a
lol?
track record of
Lol.
doing what they want, not what the players or the
Have you seen
community.
the new updates that have been happening recently in Counter Strike? It's finally stuff that we've been asking for years.
Right. And, and again, honestly, we still might have been waiting if it weren't for the fact that Valorant
When it came out,
actually
yeah.
is a viable competitor to Counter-Strike in the sense that you've got players going over there. And I mean no disrespect when I say that the players that couldn't quite make the cut in Counter-Strike went to Valorant. It was just you could tell, even the tier 1 pro teams, there were differences in ability even between the tier 1 pro teams. Like the top 20 HLTV teams is probably the best example of showing like you could be one of the best teams in the world, but then you got teams like Astralis and FaZe for a while, and
Fnatic back in the
LG
day
that
and
became,
IP, yeah, all
LG
those.
that became MIBR before they totally tanked, that were still just leagues ahead. And I use Astralis as the example because there was a time when they were doing things that others hadn't even really thought of. They took utility and completely revamped the way it was used in the game. And so I there's nothing saying that those pro players that switched from CS to Valorant didn't have the ability or didn't have the drive, but they might not have been presented with the best opportunities. And in a fresh game, if you can start out with the juiciest, best opportunities, you've got a
Yeah, I
better
think the
chance
money was just too good to pass up on, you know?
you've got a better chance to make a name for yourself, right? Because when
Yeah.
the game's just starting out, if you start out and you get it and you nail it and you've got it down pat, it happens every year in Call of Duty, aside from the complexity era, right? And even going back a bit before that in Black Ops 2, Farico, Impact,
Oh yeah.
they figured out the game before anybody else. That's why they did so well. It wasn't because they necessarily had the flashiest, strongest gun skill and gun plays, but they figured out the kinks of how that game was played before anybody else, so they went on a tear with it. And I think that was another part of the appeal of Valorant is, right, this is a new game, it's fresh. If we can figure it out first, we will dominate and we can make a name for ourselves and we become the team to beat, but we become the team and the name that's associated. When you hear Valorant, right, you think of X team. For League of Legends a long time, you hear League of Legends, you think TSM. That's just how it was for a while.
Yeah,
Now,
I agree.
and so that's the appeal of Valorant I see from a professional standpoint, right? And it's a great business move as a player, because nowadays you're never just a player. You have your own persona, social media presence, Twitch presence that you're building, because we're in the digital age, right? Like, it's not just a team. It's not like, people that watch football are like, oh, well, the Cowboys are my team or the Patriots are my team. It's now like, yes, TSM's the team, but there's a certain player and they have their own persona and they have their
Yeah.
own online presence outside of what that team is. And I think that's just the progression of how much Twitch and just online content and streaming has taken over in the past couple years, and even now more so because of COVID, right? Everybody's inside, they're looking for something else to do, and so there's just a wider audience than there was. So having your own personal presence online, for if when you change teams, get dropped, decide to leave, you still have a following and a presence that you can use to market and network
Yourself, yeah.
yourself. And that's where I think Valorant really appealed to a lot of those players.
I personally agree with you in certain aspects of that, like especially the marketing point of it, right? Like, yeah, you getting your fan base is obviously number one. I personally think it was just the money they were throwing at, like, the organization was trying to get the best players possible as early as possible, right? To guarantee a spot in those kind of ignition series or whatever they're called nowadays. To get that foothold. For example, one of the better Overwatch players ended up getting paid $1 million to switch games completely, which was pretty big compared to anything else probably offered him in Overwatch.
Right.
So
Yeah,
obviously
absolutely.
yeah, I'm definitely thinking it was more of a money and a following move, especially for a lot of the pro players. Scream ended up did he ended up going to Liquid, right? So I mean,
Right.
that was a pretty big move in general. One of the goats of Counter Strike, switching all the way to Valorant. That's a pretty big move there, as well as, like, other esports have kind of done the same, but never as a big of a move as so many familiar faces. Obviously Brax and and all them that did get banned. They did a scandal in Counter Strike, and now welcome with open arms to Valorant. Stuff like that. So there was a lot of money moves all around the board coming in, and especially SKT1 coming from League of Legends into their FPS scene into Valorant was also a huge move in my personal opinion.
Oh
One of the
yeah.
best League of Legends teams to
Yeah,
spot to FPS.
money talks. Money definitely talks. I try to stray away from the money conversation, just because, money is what runs everything. I try to at least give players, I don't know if the benefit of the doubt is the right phrase to use, because obviously you want to do what's best for yourself, your family, and your livelihood. But I'd like to think that, some players at least have a passion drive that they wanted to come out and
Oh yeah, of
take
course.
take things by the reins, and the money was just a nice touch
Add
on
up.
top. Because once you start getting into the money, then you start diving down the rabbit hole that is, oh, you sold out, blah blah blah, where's the loyalty? And ultimately, I like to think that the majority of players would would continue their passion wherever they end up, even if money was a driving factor towards making the change, like you were talking about.
Yeah. I agree, but I feel like a lot of people in CS:GO, at least the pro community, my personal opinion, was already kind of getting frustrated with Valve, which probably was a big money move as well, or a big move for them as well, just switch from Valve to Riot, because Riot has been known to listen somewhat to players in League of Legends. Obviously, no company can make everybody happy. That's just not realistic, right? Everybody gets some bad marks somewhere. But I think that's a big move for them as well, just to try something new, right? That's kind of
Oh
the
yeah,
end of it. Yeah.
100%. Valve does their own thing, and
Yeah.
we've seen that over the years. So I mean, it was smart. What Riot
Yeah.
did was definitely smart, and
Going back to real quick,
I'm
cut you off,
excited to
sorry.
see how it goes. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah, just cut you off real quick. Ozarts, I have a question for you. You told me you started pretty young. At what point did you like? How did you break to your parents you wanted to compete and stuff like that? Because there's a lot of younger audiences, listening, or somebody with a younger brother or something that wants to get into competitive esports, right? How would you tell them to like go about it?
That's actually a really good question. And I'm glad you asked. It's kind of it goes hand to hand with content creation as well because parents don't agree with it. But when I was younger, um, I was kind of a loner in high school. I got made fun of a lot, so I would just go home and play Halo. But my mother, my parents are divorced. My mother wasn't okay with it at first. My dad was super into it because my cousin Kyle actually competed in Halo 3 and would go to tournaments all the time. So my dad knew somewhat of what esports was at the time. As for fuck's sakes, bro.
No editing that one out.
Edit that one out. Let's So my dad knew what esports was before because back in the day, Halo was on ESPN a lot, ESPN2 a lot, and my dad seen it, and he would my cousin Kyle would always talk about it and stuff like that. When I first started to get into playing video games seriously, like I said, when I was like 14, 15, I begged my mom for better internet. I begged my mom for Turtle Beaches, and I begged I was playing on a tube TV for the longest. I begged my mom to get a monitor and stuff like that. When I went to my first tournament with friends, she was extremely hesitant, but she knew, I struggled in high school and I didn't really have a lot of friends. And she's like, well, like she was just hesitant. But
Yeah.
when I came back, she let me go. Obviously, I went. I went to Columbus. With it was me, Logan, Reggie, and I can't remember who our fourth was. I went for fun, but Logan, the other guys, I think we got like third rounded or something out of like at the time it was the last Halo Reach tournament had like over 150 teams because that was the last Halo Reach tournament before Halo 4 came out. It was I think it was like the first or second no sprint no bloom tournament. I can't remember, but anyway, so I came back from that event and I was just so happy. And I told I was talking to my mom about it, and she was like, "Okay, well, if it's something that you love to do, here's what you need to do. I need to keep my grades up, and I need to stay out of trouble and not let it destroy school." And me in high school, I graduated. I was, I think, like a little bit away from honors. I think I was like a point two, point three away from graduating with honors. But when I got into doing competitive 1v1s on like game battles and stuff like that, and actually started winning $100 there, $50 there. That's when she's like, okay, it can actually generate money. I everybody was completely on board with it at that point, my entire family. So it's that money thing. For some odd reason, parents need to see that you make money from something for you to do it, especially as a kid. And I struggled with that when I got into 4v4s. Getting into my early 20s, especially with significant others, they weren't about it at all. So but for kids and teenagers, this I think the scene has switched from wanting to be a professional gamer to being a content creator.
Why do you think that is? Because it's more realistic for certain people?
No, not that I think it's not more realistic. Realistic, it's just that esports is kind of dying. I wouldn't say it's dying, but a lot of younger kids, they don't. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, League of Legends is fun, but they watch Call of Duty. They watch, But
All
what?
right, just throw that out there. Worlds was the #1 watch event. Just throwing that one out there.
Oh, they. I mean, League of Legends is huge, right?
Yeah, of course.
It's beyond huge, but I don't know. For my personal opinion, like growing up, it was Halo and Call of Duty.
I think
but-
it's a different. I think it's a different market now, though, because when Halo and COD and all these other games were out, everybody had a console. No one went out to buy if you ask your parents for a $1,500 PC, you'd probably get slapped.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty accurate for a lot of people nowadays. So to buy a console and have a good time on Call of Duty, Halo, the most popular platform. That's why I feel like back then it was a lot more, especially because everybody had it. You went in your class, everybody had an Xbox, PS3. You go play with your friends.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was actually a loser in high school till I got my Xbox. And then
Oh,
I
yeah.
started, and then like within 6 months, I was the best player like in my region. And then
Yeah,
all of
that's
a
what I'm
sudden,
saying.
everybody wanted to be my friend, and it was actually hilarious.
Sorry to cut you off. My high school was weird. Everybody wanted. There was like, I had a teammate who was older than me. I ended up teaming with him in 4v4s when I started out 4v4s. He was like a senior when I was a freshman or sophomore, senior, whatever. But everybody was playing PlayStation, because that was when Black Ops 2 came out. In 2012, everybody wanted a PlayStation, or for some odd reason, everybody was on PlayStation. Nobody played Halo, so I was like a loner. Another loner with that in high school because nobody wanted to play Halo. They wanted to play Call of Duty. I was just
For
like,
me, it was actually the opposite. Like everybody was PlayStation. Well, kind of. Everybody was PlayStation. Or everybody was Xbox. Sorry, and I was PlayStation. I was very tilted. So and I only played COD. I didn't play Halo. So I begged my mom, and I ended up getting an Xbox. Worked forever to try to get it, and I got one. And that's when I started like my social group also blew up as well. I mean, I feel like that's just how that is. Like you just expand your horizons with games stuff like that, and you get like. I mean, at the same time, this was like 2012, so I was young. I was pretty young. I was probably like 13, 12.
I actually got grounded for going to my first Call of Duty event.
how dare you?
Oh yeah.
Shame on you.
Because like with Ozarts, my dad was just like, no, you need to go to school. Da, da, da. Mind you, I was a straight A student. I never got in trouble, but I like to play. I like to compete. That's where I got my enjoyment. And I asked, right? And they're like, no, you can't go. Da da da. Mind you, we weren't doing anything. We're never doing anything. And so I snuck out to go compete, and we top 8'd. It was just a local LAN, but still, I think we lost in the semis because one of our players, like controller, died in game 5, and
Yikes!
Like it would not fix, and it was like 10th round, or no, hang on. Back then, S&D only had 4 rounds to win, so it was like the 6th round, right? And he just it was a disaster, and it was really sad. But I get home. And I'm like, hey, look, I won. I got some money. My dad was like, you're grounded for a month. You're not allowed to leave the house. I'm like, Dad, I don't leave the house anyway. I just go to school. But it was like one of the most upsetting things. I'm like, hey, look, I can actually do something. And he just didn't want to hear it.
To go,
Yeah, I feel like the older generation just doesn't see like I wouldn't say the majority, because it is really hard. If you think about it, it is really hard to start to make money online, regardless of the esport, right?
Right.
It's hard for you to get a check from an organization in general, let alone go to an event and win a LAN. Because like for a good while before franchising of Call of Duty was the actual players were kind of like in a struggle for money, because if you didn't place good in a tournament, you weren't going to be making a lot. Only the like top 5 or top 10 organizations at the time were even paying salary. So it's interesting, to think about. Like it's very difficult to make money online. You could ask anybody.
Oh yeah, 100%.
To go back to your question on why I think kids want to be content creators more than professional gamers, it's just you got to look at the way Twitch streamers or YouTubers are like.
Yeah, there's a lot more of them.
There's a lot more, and I mean, we have a certain big name, Ninja, to thank for that. you know,
Yeah.
I think it was like 2 years ago, you know, he's playing with Drake, you know, he's playing with, you
Yeah.
know, all these big stars, and Ninja turned gaming cool. And now you have all these big streamers who are huge influencers like Nick Merckx, you know, Shroud, even though he stays on more of the competitive side. You know, just to name a few streamers, you know, you have all of these kids watching these streamers, and they're like, "Well, I want to be a streamer. Like, I want that big setup. Like, I
I
want."
think it's just easier to get into.
Yeah, it,
Like
it,
I
it definitely is. It's you don't.
you go get a camera. You can even stream off your console nowadays, right? So I mean,
Yeah, you
And
can.
yeah. So
especially
like,
with the expansion of social media, right? Like
yeah, you're cool if you have social media in school,
viral,
right?
quote unquote, viral clips
Like,
are the thing that spread like wildfire, much less than like, yes, you'll get insane plays in a competitive atmosphere, but that competitive atmosphere
It's pretty small.
doesn't present itself as often. Whereas, you know, if you hit something gnarly or crazy and you're a content creator, you could just put it out there, and then the next thing you know, everybody's talking
Well,
about it,
yeah.
at least within that sort of like social circle. So that's what people see, so that's what people want to imitate.
right.
Yeah, I can agree with that
No.
for sure. As a question for both of you now, right? We're going into the aspect of esports. Would you let your kid get into it,
Yes.
knowing what you've been through, right? Like about the struggles, the ups and downs. Like, would you let your kid get into it?
Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And
Why?
I think for me personally, one, I know what it's like to not have support, and I would never not support my kids in anything that they want to pursue
Yeah,
productively and
I agree.
meaningfully, right? But
Oh,
like, I do think that the struggles teach a really good lesson, as no matter how much you want something, right? Yes, always do your best, work your hardest, and try to make something out of it. But life doesn't always give you the opportunities to do what you want, how you want it. And that's a good lesson. So you learn, okay, well, if this isn't working, we improvise, we adapt, we overcome. And if, say, making it as a pro player doesn't happen, take the skills and the knowledge that you've accumulated and turn it into something productive. You know, try to get into analyst work or commentating or coaching, right? Because yes, it may not be the ultimate end goal that you started out with in the beginning, but if you apply yourself well enough, you can make yourself a valuable asset in
Excuse me.
whatever field it is that you want to work in, as long as you're putting in the time and working
dedication. Yeah.
towards it in a productive way, right? And that's the big thing, is finding the productive balance, right? Because it is very easy to fall in the trap of, oh, well, I want to do this, so I'm going to dedicate all my time and ignore everything else. And that's a
And then
very
it hurts you
dangerous,
more.
slippery
Yeah.
slope to fall down, because you're not approaching it the right way. You know, you can walk face first into a brick wall as many times as you want. The brick wall is not going to move. But if you take the time to analyze the brick wall and understand, you know, how it's constructed and utilize the tools and resources around you, you can eventually get to where you're trying to go.
I agree. How about you, Ozarts?
Yes. I would allow my kids to compete if they want to. I mean, obviously,
You're not gonna force them.
not gonna force them. I mean, when I have, you know, eventually when I do have kids, they're obviously gonna see that their dad is a content creator, and it's gonna be a part of their lives. It's like, you know, why is dad locked in that room, you know, for hours on end. And, you know, they're going to get curious about it, and they're you know, they're going to know their dad's, you know, big or small. You know, if, you know, 5 years down the line I'm some huge content creator, you know, if not, you know, they're still going to be curious about it. And I'm sure, you know, even, you know, my significant other at the time, Sarah, she's a gamer too, so gaming is just, you know, a part of our lives. And I'm sure at some point, you know, it's going to become a thing. You know, esports is going to keep growing, and you know, content creation and influencers are going to keep growing, and it's just going to become a part of the next generation's lives. You know, you see,
regardless,
you see it. You know, esports
with Fortnite.
You know, esports are getting into high schools. Esports are getting into colleges now. You know, it's going to be, especially our kids are going to have more with gaming than we ever did as when we were kids. So yeah, definitely, I'm going to allow my kid to do what they want, and if they want to be a content creator,
Would you be as strict as your parents? Though?
No. No, because I know what it can bring if they
Approach it
are
properly.
if they approach it properly and they are dedicated enough. They can end up being some big star one day. And I'm going to encourage my child or kids, if they want that, then work for it, as long as you keep your grades up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you got, at the end of the day, you have to have something to fall back on, because myself included, us as content creators, if it does not work out, what do you have to fall back on? If you don't go to school, if you don't have a job, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, and you have to have something to fall back on. So yeah,
That's interesting.
but
Yeah, esports is definitely a slippery slope for myself included. Even though I'm pretty good at what I do. I mean, there's always a chance I break a hand, lose a hand. What do you gotta do?
what are you gonna do? So
Exactly. Honestly, this was a fun idea. I think we should run our podcast. Definitely another day for sure. I definitely enjoyed this. The scene, everybody talking, and just having a good time.
oh yeah, I used to hold a podcast, but I think that is an excellent topic to end on. We've reached our hour point. That is as much as I will allow myself to sit and edit down. So
Yeah.
awesome. Why don't we do a little outro for the YouTube? I'm going to speak about our ELG sponsors real quick, and then we'll wrap it up. So
For sure. Gotta go.
get your content creator voice going, Ozarts. All right, let's go. Well, guys, I think that's a good topic to end on. It's been awesome having the opportunity to not only host this episode 1, the first official episode of the ELG podcast, alongside with Melly and Shimmy. It's been a pleasure, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure. This has been an interesting and probably one of the most fun times I've had in a while. This has been great. I know both of you are Twitch streamers. Why don't you tell the audience where we could catch you guys live? Starting with Melly. Go ahead.
Melender_TV. Same thing on Twitch. Or not Twitch, sorry, Twitter.
Cool.
So you guys can hit me up on there.
Shimmy?
You guys want to see my content?
Thankfully, I got lucky, and my Twitch, Twitter, all that, Discord is Shimeco, SHIMECO. Come check it out. I stream pretty much whatever I'm doing at the time. Twitter is probably the best way to get in contact with me if you ever have any questions or just comments, concerns, etc. I'm sure we can get ourselves some nice ads in the camera widget for YouTube.
Yes, I will work on it.
Sweet. And other than that, thank you guys all for hanging out. Thanks for having us, Ozarts. It was a blast.
It was a blast.
And I'm just looking forward to the next one. Got a lot of stuff that we can cover and talk about on a regular basis. So it'll be great to see where everything goes. And shout outs to the Twitch chat, to the community. Thank you guys.
Hell yeah. They're just, while we are here, Twitch chat, you guys are awesome. I mean, I've been looking over at the Twitch chat. You guys are absolutely amazing with the support, with the organization. It's absolutely insane. I want to give a huge shout out to all of ELG sponsors, starting, with Glitch Energy, HyperX, Gamer Grind, Cinch. Is it Cinch or Cinch Gaming? Cinch controllers, custom controllers. I've used you guys before. That's Zip Chair and Gamer Grind. We appreciate you guys supporting us at ELG. But yeah, that's where we're going to end it. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your evening, afternoon, morning, whenever you guys watch this YouTube video. But we are going to sign out later.